Loving your enemy is a very, very, very hard thing. It's going to release power, but it's a very hard thing. As Ryan was talking about that story, he's talking about a couple in our church, Stephanie and Trey Wright, who lost their son on Boxing Day last year, and their community group came around them, and he was hit by a car as he crossed the street. And it's fascinating because you talk to Trey and Steph and you ask them, because the person who hit their son was an off-duty police officer. And so people say, oh my, we have to hold him accountable. And so they would go to them and they continue to rile them up, kind of like, don't you feel that you need, to get justice? And don't you feel that you did something wrong? And their whole posture is, man, we just want to tell him, we forgive him. And we're sorry that this happened, and nothing can get our son back. And there's this posture of, man, the last thing we want to do is try to hold this guy accountable for a mistake. The last thing we want to do is look at this guy, because the temptation would be now all of your depression in life and all of your frustration in life can just point toward this one person who personifies evil, who took something, the most important thing, away from him, and just hate them. And their whole posture is loving them. Now that's when it gets real. And that's when God can start opening up healing and the power. I mean, it's just, what does it look like for you in your life, man? Listen, today, think about that person. You want to talk about practical life, what you can do today? Today, before you go out and get lost in the apathetic daily routine of your week and go to White Spot, whatever you do in the afternoon on Sunday, whatever you do, before you do that, what would it look like for you to call up that person who you harbor in your mind right now that did something against you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 3 weeks ago, and you harbor it and you hold it right here? What would it look like for you to call them up and say, you know what? I was in church today and Jesus spoke to me and said, I'm supposed to love you because you're my enemy. They might take offense to that, but because they might not know. They're like, hey, Joe, what's going on? You're like, I hate you. But it will free you. It will bring reconciliation. It will free the power of God to be able to work in your life. And what if that's what you did what if this Sunday was different? And that's what you did, and you heard from Jesus, and he said, this is how practical this gets. Love your enemy. And I don't mean good feelings. You don't have to like them. I'm telling you to lay down your life for them. I'm telling you to wash their feet. I'm telling you to tell them they're forgiven so you can release them. Release them, because it's only holding you back. Now, why do you do all this? We do all this because then, why? So that you might be sons of your Father who's in heaven. For he makes the sun rise on the evil, sends rain on the just and the unjust. You know what he just said? He said, here's the reason for all this. The reason for this is so that you look like God, because this is what God does. When God came and died, when Jesus came and died, you weren't his friend. What, you think he came and died because you're so special? Because you're so good? Because you're a nice person? Because he was so flattered by you that he was like, I have to die for them. They're so good. Look at how many old ladies I help across the street. Look at how good, look at how virtuous they are. I better come and die a brutal death for them. No, Romans 5 says he loved you and came and died for you when you were his what? Enemy.